Mr. Advani, many people believe that your party, and particularly yourself as its leader, are largely responsible for the present highly charged communal atmosphere and indirectly for the recent spate of communal violence in the country. How do you defend yourself?
I've been hearing this charge these days, but I think it's the result of a very intense campaign of disinformation. But unfortunately, it is this sustained tirade against the whole campaign and then against the Rath Yatra that I undertook that did create a feeling of scare and panic among the Muslims.
Mr. Advani, I'm not surprised by your denial. Let me therefore ask you a few specific questions. You're today leader of the opposition, a responsibility that you hold on your shoulders. Do you therefore outrightly condemn the Asthi Kalash processions?
No, not the Asthi Kalash processions.
The Asthi Kalash processions have been widely perceived as lying behind the problems that have occurred in UP and even in Hyderabad. Do you therefore, as the leader of the opposition, outrightly condemn these?
I'm sorry again, I cannot agree with you so far as facts are concerned. And it's good that you have mentioned even Hyderabad, even Andhra. Asthi Kalash has nothing to do with that. So far as UP is concerned, I am absolutely sure that it is not the Asthi Kalash. And there too, the Asthi Kalash are in a way homage to people who fell martyrs to police bullets, not to communal violence.
But in the highly charged communal atmosphere that followed Ayodhya in October, November, even the simplest person could have foretold that the Asthi Kalash processions would have led to communal violence. So if you support those processions, am I to understand that you also support those intentions?
No, I don't agree with that. That paying homage to the people who lost their lives there is in any way fomenting communal trouble.
Even if anyone else could have predicted that it would have had this result, you would still have gone ahead?
It has not happened.
In UP?
Factually not happened.
300 people have
not
been...
Not because of that.
It has been widely perceived to have been because of that.
Wide perception is the same whether it's Asthi Kalash, whether it's Dr. Jain's cassette, or whether it's Rath Yatra.
So you're saying that...
So I know firsthand what has been the real impact of the Rath Yatra.
But Mr. Advani, what you're saying in effect is that public perception is wrong. I, L.K. Advani, am right.
No. I say because in this particular matter, I am ranged against a very powerful and a very wide organized section. All political parties are ranged against me.
All right, you brought up the audio cassettes that have been released. Let me ask you specifically about Sadhvi Rithambra's audio cassette. Do you condemn the manner in which certain members of your party have sought to exploit that cassette and to gain political advantage from it?
I have told them that we should not try to defend anything that we don't agree with. And in that particular case, I would think that that language
Forgive me
is not
interrupting.
appropriate.
Yes, you do not agree with Sadhvi Rithambra's cassette?
That language, I think, is not appropriate.
In which case, do you condemn your Delhi President, Mr. Khurana, who was publicly defending it and demonstrating in favor of it outside Palika Bazaar?
It was the video cassette of Dr. Jain. And in that case, I told him that...
The Times of India published a picture of him holding the audio cassette.
Maybe.
But maybe means you do condemn him, or maybe you don't?
I don't condemn it. I don't condemn it, but I would not like anyone of my party to defend it.
And in other words, you think he has acted wrongly?
I would only say that I would not defend it.
So much of what we're talking about today is an issue that goes well beyond party politics to what almost could be considered your own personal beliefs. If you had the power, would you want to make India a Hindu country, officially a Hindu country?
I believe that this is a Hindu country, just as Britain is a Christian country. Nothing more, nothing less.
Mr. Advani, a lot of people will think you're simply playing with words. What therefore is the meaning of Hindutva? You stand for Hindutva, don't you? You're in favor of it.
I stand for nationalism, pure and simple, But I do believe that nationalism denuded of its Hindu content is meaningless. That's all.
Let's be very specific. Are you for a secular India or a Hindu India?
Unequivocally, unreservedly, that I stand for a secular India.
What does your stand in favor of Hindutva mean if at the same time you're also in favor of a secular country?
Secularism, according to me, means three things. It doesn't mean any religious state. It doesn't mean disowning our past and culture and heritage. It doesn't mean that this country was born only in 1947. And if we think in terms of our culture and heritage, I do believe that nationalism and secularism divested of its Hindu content doesn't mean much.
Tell me something.
But nothing more.
If nationalism divested of its Hindu content doesn't mean much, and those are your words, Mr. Advani, are you saying that Indian Muslims can't be national?
No, why not?
But then what does the Hindu content have to do with them?
For example, Ramayana, for instance. I believe that whether it's a Hindu or a Muslim, it's part of his culture.
Define Hindutva for me. You've defined secularism, define Hindutva.
I am not an expert on Hindu thought and Hindu...
But you see, that's where the problem comes, Mr. Advani. Most people perceive a sharp contradiction between Hindutva, which you're in favor of, and secularism, which you're in favor of. You're trying to bridge something that most people think isn't bridgeable.
It is like Lokmanya Tilak or like Gandhi. It's not like Nehru. In the early years of independence, we had in the Congress party itself people whose concepts of secularism were like those of Nehruji. And Nehruji himself was an agnostic, if not an atheist. Whereas there were people like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, there were people like Gandhiji, there were people like Rajaji, there were people like Sampurnanand or Tandon or Sardar Patel, whose conceptions of secularism were quite those like, as I believe, over these 4 decades, it is electoral expediency that has distorted perspectives.
What about your attitude to India's 100 million Muslims? Would you accept personally that they are an inalienable part of this country?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So am I to believe then that personally you would be completely against the VHP's claim that some 3,000 Muslim mosques should be demolished and temples built in their place instead?
I am opposed to it.
Totally?
Totally.
In which case, let's move on.
And to the best of my knowledge, not even the Vishwa Hindu Parishad has said that. They have talked about 3 symbolic places. Though from my side, I made a public pronouncement 3 months back that I would like to exert my influence in against the other 2 being agitated for. And the whole
When you say exert your influence, would you also throw your party behind that too?
Yes, of course.
This is therefore the official BJP position?
No. 3 months back when I made this suggestion, I was confident of my influence, my capacity to influence even the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. And the response that I got from the Babri Action Committee was of a nature.
You're backing out of your own commitment, aren't you?
I'm not backing out.
You sound as if you're...
There was no commitment on my part. It was an offer made by me, suggestion made by me at a meeting where I was releasing a book on...
But you've withdrawn the suggestion.
No, I have not withdrawn the suggestion.
But you're not going to proceed.
I have only said that I am doubtful of my capacity to influence matters in that regard today.
In which case, let me come to my final question. Personally speaking, would you be happy if the Ram Janma Bhoomi temple that you want to see built was built alongside the Babri Masjid or on top of it? Or do you believe it has to be built in place of it?
I have always said that just as Hindu sentiment is related to the place, Muslim sentiment is related to the structure. And therefore, a proper solution would be to relocate that structure.
So the temple has to be built in the place of...
At the place.
All right, then now let me put to you a contradiction. If the Supreme Court were to give an opinion that went against your position personally, would you accept it as the leader of the opposition?
I have said that there are certain matters which are not judicially determinable, which is a position taken by very many courts. And if someone says that if the court were to decide that this is not the place where Ram was born, I would say that this is not a question which can be determined by court.
Mr. Advani, you've made your position as regards the courts very clear. Thank you very much indeed.